Okay, so
안녕하세요. 사람사랑유학원 대표 이선호입니다. 그러면 오늘 안내해드렸던 대로 그 세 번째 시간이죠. MPW 여기 그 리지널 디렉터인 안디 호에 의해서 지금 10 tips for applying to top university라는 제목으로 세미나를 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 이어서 MPW 소개하는 시간도 갖도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다. Okay, so Andy, so you can introduce yourself and then start the seminar. Excellent.
Okay,
seminar.
감사합니다, Suno. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so hello. Yes, so my name is Andy, and I am the regional director for a group of schools in the UK called Mpw. And I'm here today to give you some tips about applying to top universities in the UK. And so I hope you find some of this useful. Okay, so let's begin. So tip number one, okay, sounds very obvious. Choose your A-level subjects carefully. Okay, so taking certain A-level subjects will, of course, open up more opportunities for certain programs at certain universities. Now, here's a good word for you, facilitating. Facilitating subjects are the subjects which are most respected and preferred by top universities. That's actually an old thing now. So they actually replaced facilitating subjects with something called informed choices. And the reason they did that is because facilitating subjects did not allow for students who wanted to study programs such as art and design or performing arts, which is why they've introduced informed choices now. However, despite facilitating subjects kind of being old now, I think they still apply, and they certainly still apply to the top ranking universities because these universities are very traditional. Now, the Russell Group previously defined facilitating subjects as the following. Okay, so it was English literature, history, modern languages such as French, German, Spanish. They won't include Chinese or Korean, I'm afraid. Classical languages such as ancient Greek or Latin. I don't know of any international student that has studied ancient Greek or Latin, though. Of course, maths and further maths, the sciences, physics, biology, chemistry, and geography. However, this list was done many years ago, and they never really updated it. I think you can also include subjects such as economics, psychology, politics as being defined as facilitating subjects nowadays, okay? But this is like the original list of facilitating subjects. Now, it's worth noting that A-levels, which are the high school qualification in the UK, are much more difficult than GCSEs. GCSEs are the middle school qualification in the UK. So on GCSEs, it's quite similar to the US system, where you will study a wide range of subjects, but in not a lot of detail. A-levels is a total opposite, where you will study far less subjects, but in much more detail. If you do badly on a GCSE subject, it is a guarantee that you will do badly on the same A-level subject. However, just because you get a good grade at GCSE level does not guarantee a good grade at A-level standard, because remember, A-levels are significantly more difficult than GCSEs. Now, I'm sure you guys know this. Certain university subjects will look for specific A-levels that you must do. So for example, with things like medicine, dentistry, vet science, chemistry, of course, is essential. And usually universities will ask for at least one, often two, from biology, maths, and physics. Economics, you don't need economics A-level to study economics at university. Maths, though, is usually essential. Law, so the good news about law is that there are no essential subjects, but it's good to have, I think, maybe a mix of subjects which show logical ability plus essay-based subjects, something like this. Computing. Maths is usually essential, okay? And certainly useful for sure, because it's a maths-based subject. But also computing science is useful, not essential for A-level, but it's useful because really I would certainly encourage students to understand some coding and programming language if this is what you want to do at university level. For engineering, of course, maths and physics are usually essential. At very good universities, places like, Imperial, for example, further maths is often a preferred subject, but it is usually not essential because they recognize not every student has the opportunity to do further maths. If you're interested in something like chemical engineering, chemistry for sure will be essential. Now, some universities will actually give a list of subjects that they don't accept or they don't like. So, for example, if you look at LSE's website, they actually have a list of non-preferred subjects. And these currently include accounting, A-level, art and design, but that's because LSE is not an art and design university. Business, okay, so they actually prefer economics over business for sure. DT, design technology, drama, film studies, health and social care, ICT. Don't confuse ICT with computing science, okay? So computing science is a maths-based course focusing on coding, usually Python as the coding language. ICT is nothing like that. It's really focusing on like the hardware, like the processor, the motherboard, the graphics card, the RAM, and how it all comes together to form a computer, okay? So computing science is okay. ICT is not okay for LSE. I get asked this question quite often from students. Andy, are there any easy A-levels I can do which almost guarantee a grade A for my UCAS application? I would say not really, not nowadays, okay? So maybe 15 years ago, there probably were, to be honest with you. However, they have made the A-level curriculum a lot more difficult now because in the past, too many students were getting grade A and A star. And so they changed the curriculum. I don't think there are really any easy A-levels anymore, certainly not the ones that are respected by top universities anyway, put it this way. However, there certainly are subjects which international students will traditionally find more difficult. And these include subjects like English language, English literature, modern languages, French, German, Spanish, classical languages, history, geography, biology, psychology, economics. Often that is because these subjects use very complicated vocabulary, which is really difficult for international students to learn. Say, for example, with English language and English literature at A-level standard, you've got to be almost a native level English speaker to be successful at A-level standard, right? And so I would say these subjects are particularly challenging for international students, certainly if you don't have good English, that's for sure. But the number one rule above anything else, okay, regardless of facilitating subjects or non-facilitating subjects, is this rule: only choose subjects that you enjoy and only choose subjects that you're good at, okay? If you don't do this, if you don't follow this rule, you're probably going to suffer, right? If you don't enjoy the subject, if you find it boring, you're not going to do well. And so only choose subjects you enjoy and only choose subjects you are good at. Okay, so number two, research your university. Okay, so a lot of students, they want to go to top ranking universities such as Oxford and Cambridge, really because of one reason. And that reason is because they're number one ranking, right? However, you've got to ask yourself, what is Oxbridge actually like? Okay, so places like Oxford and Cambridge, they are built around something called the tutorial system, which is known as supervisions in Cambridge. And tutorials could be one-to-one teaching, or it could be small groups. And they are very, very discussion-based. Actually, our teaching model at MPW is based on the same teaching model at Cambridge: small classes, discussion-based teaching. You've got to remember that in places like Oxbridge, the academics are often highly specialized world experts. And so if you go and study at a place like Oxbridge, you've got to be very confident in articulating and arguing your thoughts, both for and against. And all of this is in your second language, English, right? It's not in Korean. Now, Oxbridge are made up of something called the collegiate system. It's a very old-fashioned system, and there are only 3 universities in the UK that have this collegiate system, and that is Oxford, Cambridge, and Durham University. And what it basically means, the collegiate system, it means that these universities are made up of lots of different independent self-governing colleges, right? And so these colleges, they decide their own entry requirements, and so forth, and they operate independently from each other. But all of these colleges combined will make up the university, Oxford or Cambridge or Durham. Now, having a collegiate system will allow students to, number one, belong to a large famous institution such as Cambridge University, but also number two, it allows them to belong to a smaller academic college community, right? So it's a bit different from other universities. And how it works is students will usually socialize with other students from within that college. That's normally how it works, okay? Now at Oxbridge, the terms are shorter and therefore more intensive. That basically means more work and more pressure for students. A lot of independent reading and research is expected from Oxbridge students or any students attending top-ranking universities. Because the terms are shorter, it means that there are tighter deadlines. Of course, you can still do extracurricular activities, but you've got to manage your time carefully. If you do get into Oxford or Cambridge, I wouldn't really recommend doing part-time work if you can avoid it, simply because the workload is so intensive. And because it is so intensive, it's not suitable for every student, right? Now, factors that you should actually consider, which are not the ranking, because ranking is one of the least important factors, I think, when choosing a university. You should consider other things, such as the city itself, right? Do you like big, busy cities with lots of shopping? Or do you prefer smaller, quieter cities, more in the countryside? If you don't like the city you're living in, you're not going to be happy. If you're not happy, you're not going to study well, right? So the city is very, very important. Think about what subjects that university teaches, or if they are experts in anything in particular, right? So LSE, they're clearly experts in things related to economics and politics or finance. Imperial are very well known for anything related to technology or maths, things like this, okay? Think about the location. And when I say location, I don't mean the city, I mean the university itself. There's really two types of university you can get. So one is called a campus uni, and a campus university is big, it's beautiful, lots of grass, lots of trees, very Harry Potter style campus, right? Old buildings, pretty to look at, but usually located far away from a city center. Or would you prefer a city-based uni? Not as big, not as green, not as many trees, but located either right on the edge or in a city center, so much more convenient. Which one do you prefer? It makes a difference, right? Think about the teaching style. Some universities, some courses have something called PBL, problem-based learning. It's a bit more practical. Others will be more traditional, subject-based, lecture-based, right? Which one suits you? As a general rule, PBL courses tend to be slightly more expensive in tuition fees because of the facilities they've got to have. And also consider additional things such as the entry requirements. Be realistic, right? Because top unis are going to ask for top grades, top personal statement, top IELTS, but also there may be additional factors. They may have additional entrance exams. Be realistic. Are you capable of achieving those grades? Are you capable of achieving those IELTS or passing these entrance exams, okay? Do not simply make a decision based on the ranking, okay? If you're gonna look at ranking, maybe look at the faculty ranking, not the overall ranking. Branding, right? Just because a university is good at marketing doesn't mean it's good for you or suitable for you. Don't base it on what's called hearsay, things that you heard from a friend or a friend of a friend or a friend of a friend of a friend said this. You've got to make a decision about the degree at the best university in the most appropriate city to suit you. And the best way to decide this, honestly, is to attend open days and to attend their masterclasses. That way you will get a feel of the campus, the uni, the teaching, and of course, the city as well. Number 3, reading ahead. Okay, so if you do apply to a top university, Oxford, Cambridge, those types of places, then you may get asked along for an interview. Interviewers have dedicated literally their entire life to that particular subject area, their entire life. And so they will be super passionate about research, and they will expect you to be exactly the same way. Read books related to your subject area, okay? And it is much, much better to read just one book and be able to talk about that in a lot of detail than to read 20 books and not really be able to talk about any of them. Now, the important thing about reading, you must be able to critically analyze that content. Okay, so you cannot just repeat the information that is in the book. That is no good. You must be able to expand upon the content you've read with your own ideas. You must be able to argue points both for and against. Okay, so it's not just a question of reading, memorizing it, and then just repeating it. That's no good. You've got to be able to analyze that information and come up with your own conclusions. Number 4, extracurricular activities or work experience. Okay, so very important. Okay, so in places like Korea, but not just Korea, in Asia in general, to be honest with you, it's almost like the opposite of the UK and the West, where if you get top grades in your high school in Korea, you will go to a top university in Korea. Simple as that. Not just Korea, but it's the same in Asia. In Asia, top universities want students who get top grades in their high school, and that's kind of it, nothing else. However, in the UK, top grades alone are simply not enough to get into the top universities. You've got to remember that universities, they are communities, and so they want students who can contribute to that community. Therefore, you have to demonstrate a range of interests, okay? Your life cannot just be studying and then going home and playing League of Legends and then study and then going home and playing League of Legends. That's a pretty cool life, but it won't make for a cool UCAS application. Think about your current contribution to your school life now. Are you members of any clubs or societies? Do you play sports? Are you head girl, head boy? Explain why this is significant. What does this show about you? Okay. And so this is very much the opposite of Asia in many ways, which only really focuses on top grades. Okay, so the best way for you to demonstrate that you have done your research about your subject area and that you are still committed after doing your research is through work experience. It's not always possible, right? I understand this, but try and do this if possible, right? Especially if it's relevant. But even if it's not relevant, even if you're just working part-time, I think that shows a lot of good characteristics about you. Keep a diary of your work experience. That's very, very important. And the diary is not a list of things that you watched, okay, and things that you saw. Not important. What's important is what you learned from that experience, okay, the learning outcomes. So what surprised you? What did you find difficult about it? What did you like? What did you dislike? Okay, it's about what you learned from that experience, not just a list of things that you saw. Okay, work experience is hard to get. You've got to be prepared to do it maybe in the evening or weekends. The best time though is really during the big school holidays. That's the best time to do work experience, in my opinion. Now, you must be willing and able to find this yourself. There are no schools in the UK that I'm aware of who will actually arrange work experience for you, because that would require a full-time placement team or a full-time placement officer. Schools don't have that. Universities have that. Schools don't have this. And so a good school will help you by giving you names and emails and phone numbers and suggestions, but you have to send the email yourself. You have to make the phone call yourself. Okay, so do not expect the school or your agent to do this for you, right? And also, frankly, if you're not capable of doing this yourself, that tells me that you're not really suitable for universities like Oxford, Cambridge, you know, or courses like medicine, dentistry, and so on. You've got to have initiative. You have to be able to do things yourself. Think about how you can develop and therefore show off these skills on your UCAS application. Okay, so they want people who have got leadership skills and communication skills and who have a work social life balance. Remember, they don't want students who just study all the time. Students who are dedicated and enthusiastic, who are able to manage their time effectively, right? Who can do teamwork, who are mature and have a sense of responsibility. You want to show all of these traits on your UCAS application form when applying to university. Okay, so leading on from this, it's all related. Number 5, the personal statement. Okay, so unlike the USA or Australia, where you would apply directly to each university, I think that's a bit weird, by the way, because each university has got different requirements, different paperwork. I think that's a lot of trouble. Now, in the UK, you don't do that. So in the UK, all students will apply to universities via a body called UCAS, right? And then on the UCAS form, you will put 5 universities and 5 subjects that you wish to apply to, plus, of course, your personal details, academic references from your personal tutor. The personal statement is a 1-page relevant autobiography. An autobiography is essentially an essay about you, your life. Maximum of 4,000 English characters, okay? You've got to remember that admissions tutors are very busy, and so get to the point, be concise, cover any relevant work experience that you've done. You only submit 1 personal statement for all 5 of your applications, okay? So it's super important that you choose similar subjects as your 5 options. For example, if you applied to 5 universities, 3 of them you applied to study business, and then 2 of them you applied to study law, then your personal statement will probably focus on business. The 2 law universities will read your personal statement saying, you're talking a lot about business, not a lot about law. I don't understand why you are applying here. Throw your application away. Make sure that your personal statement is relevant to all 5 subjects that you apply to. Here's a pro tip for you. So if you really, really want to get into a top uni, it is slightly less competitive if you apply for a joint honors program as opposed to a single honors. For example, if you apply to study, I don't know, a bachelor's in maths and economics, as opposed to just economics, okay? Usually there are less applicants applying for joint honors than single honors, and therefore less competition. Therefore, you've got a slightly better chance of being accepted. English is important, of course, in the personal statement. It's important in general. If you don't do the preparation with your personal statement, you simply will not get a place at a good university. Okay, so little tips. I mean, there's so much to talk about with personal statements. I've actually got a whole presentation just focusing on personal statements. But think about this. Think about making a good impression. You've got to make yourself sound interesting, bright, mature, eager to learn. Think about the structure. The structure has to be logical. It has to make sense. It's got to be clear and concise. The length, you've only got 47 lines or 4,000 characters. Don't try and pack too much information in because it can become confusing, but you need to make sure you include anything that's relevant. And talking about relevance, explain why each point is relevant to your application and course, right? Don't repeat information. Be honest on your personal statement. Only write about what you can talk at interview. Accuracy, of course, please check your spelling. The online UCAS application form does not have a spell check, so you should do everything in a Word document, but even Word documents are not accurate with spell checks. You must always get it proofread repeatedly, not just one time. Placing leads. So if there's something that you've done or achieved that you are particularly proud of and you really want to talk about this at interview, give it a mention in your PS. And the interviewers will very, very likely pick up on this and ask you about it during interview. At MPW, we recommend that students follow this code when writing personal statements, the 5-paragraph principle. Paragraph 1, the introduction. Often this is the hardest bit to write, the introduction. And so do not be afraid to leave this part until last, okay? Number 2, talk about your chosen subject area plus your A-level subjects. Number 3, talk about any work experience you've done or any wider reading you have done outside of school. Number 4, your extracurricular activities and hobbies. Number 5, a closing statement. This structure makes good sense to us. 6, know your stats. Okay.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Let me give you some break. Some break.
Sure. No problem. No problem.
So I would like to explain more about personal statements in Korean. Okay.
No problem.
Okay. 지금 지금 굉장히 좀 좋은 얘기를 계속 지금 해주고 계시거든요. 그리고 지금 자기소개서, 그다음에 이제 인터뷰를 이어서 할 건데, 사실 우리가 A레벨 생각을 하면 그 A레벨의 좋은 성적을 생각을 하고 있거든요. 하지만 앞서 얘기했던 것처럼 영국은 A레벨로만은 톱 학교들은 충분하지 않아요. 예를 들면 옥스퍼드 캠브리지는 인터뷰를 해야 되지만 사실 인터뷰 초대가 될 때는 A레벨 성적이 나오기 전에 초대가 되거든요. 그리고 그 초대될 때는 인터뷰가 필요하고요. 자기소개서가 필요하고요. 그다음 초대돼서는 인터뷰가 필요하고요. 그리고 거기에서 패스를 해야 A레벨 성적이 좋았을 때 그건 조건부로 넣는 거예요. 그래서 사실 지금 저희 학생들이 의대, 그다음에 옥스브리지, 그다음에 최근에 약대 이렇게 많이 지원하는데 가장 좀 신경 쓰는 부분이 좀 자기소개서거든요. 왜냐면 지금 자기소개서 같은 경우는 파운데이션 하는 학생들은 약대를 지원하기 전에 이미 어느 정도 준비를 하고 가야 되는데, 그리고 학교에서 L레벨을 하는 학생들은 좀 준비할 시간이 있는데 파운데이션 학생들은 준비할 시간이 없어요. 그래서 여기서 준비를 하는데 사실은 자기소개서의 중요성을 전혀 알지 못하기 때문에 그 부분을 설명하느라고 굉장히 많은 시간을 소비하고 있거든요. 그리고 최근에는 뭐 저희 웹사이트를 보시는 분도 아시겠지만 그 자기소개서 관련돼 가지고 그 세미나를 또 하고 있고요. 계속해서 그다음에 제 자신도 굉장히 많은 지원을 해주고, 그다음에 모든 학생들의 제게 자기소개서를 보면서 약대를 좀 지원하고 의대를 지원하고 하고 있고, 왜 이런 상황이거든요. 그래서 자기소개서 부분은 지금 왜 설명하는지, 그리고 인터뷰를 왜 설명하는지 사실은 톱 학교로 가려고 하면 결정적이다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같아요. 물론 대학교 입학뿐만 아니라 사실은 이 부분이 전공에 대한 열정을 표현하기 때문에 사실 대학을 선택을 하고 전공을 선택할 때 가장 초점을 맞춰서 생각해 볼 수 있는 게, 생각을 좀 깊이 할 수 있게 하는 시간이 자기소개서를 쓰는 시간이거든요. 그래서 자기소개서 부분을 굉장히 좀 많이 문의를 하셔야 되고요. 리서치를 하셔야 되고요. 그리고 무엇보다도 진짜 직접 한번 써본다든지, 그리고 진지하게 내 전공에 대해서 생각해 보는 시간을 좀 자기소개서를 통해서 가기를 바랍니다. 그래서 이어서 계속 할게요. Okay, Andy, is it?
Thank you, Suno. Right, okay, so know your stats. Okay, so I've mentioned Oxford, Cambridge, okay, very popular universities because they are #1 ranking, okay? Well, it's worth knowing this, okay? So at places like Oxford and Cambridge, every single year, around 33,000 straight A students will apply for only 6,500 places. And when I say straight A, I mean straight A, as in these students have got A in every subject they have done in every single year of school, first, second, third year of middle school, first, second, third year of high school, A's in everything, and they're predicted straight A, stars on their A level. 26,500 of these straight A students are rejected from Oxford and Cambridge every single year, okay? As a general rule, remember this ratio, 15:1 as a general rule. So at top unis, I'm talking about places like Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, Imperial, UCL, those types of universities. As a general rule, for every one space they have, they will receive around 15 applications. And remember, those 15 applications are from straight A kids. So just as an example, LSE, economics, very popular for LSE, they receive around 3,500 applicants for just 210 spaces every single year. Oxford, economics and management will get 3,000 applicants for just 87 places a year. Imperial College, over 2,200 applicants for 277 places on medicine. Cambridge, 3,500 applicants for only 300 places. Now, I've mentioned this before about the collegiate system. Oxford and Cambridge are actually made up of around 75 different colleges between them. And entry requirements will actually vary between the colleges. It's not the same for all colleges. You cannot apply to both Oxford and Cambridge on your UCAS application. You can only choose one. And also the deadline is much earlier compared to other universities. The deadline for Oxford is mid-October, whereas other universities, the deadline is mid-January. Now, these are the colleges which make up Cambridge University. You don't have to remember this. It's really just to show you. These are the colleges which make up Oxford University, okay? Now, the richest colleges attract the most competition. For Oxford, that's St. John's College. For Cambridge, that is Trinity College. And of course, some subjects are much more competitive than others. Now, to give you an idea of the differences between the colleges, so at Cambridge, okay, made up of a number of different colleges. King's College, Cambridge. Previously, they got around 5.8 applicants for every one maths place available. But at Newham, which is still Cambridge Uni, they actually received less than one application for every one maths place available. Queen's College, they get over 16 applications for every one economics place, whereas Trinity, just 5.7 for every one economics place. Now, moving on to Oxford, PPE. PPE stands for Politics, Philosophy and Economics. It's actually quite a popular subject for domestic students to do, not so popular for internationals because you have to have outstanding English to study PPE. Overall, for all of Oxford, they will get on average about 3.2 applications for every one PPE place. However, if you start breaking it down by colleges, Balliol will get 5.5, Keble and Pembroke 2.7, Mansfield College only 1.8. What's my point? Why do I keep talking about all these numbers and ratios? My point is, look, don't just pick the college that is the most famous if you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge, because you may actually have a better chance of getting into another college. And so you should consider colleges that are maybe slightly further away from the city centre or which are newer, for example. Speak to your personal tutor about this, right? Because they will give you advice and guidance. Be careful, because these numbers and these statistics change every single year. And so the numbers I've given you are already out of date, right? They change every single year, but it's good to have some idea, okay, of which colleges attract the most competition, which attract less, and so on, okay? For those of you interested in medicine, just to let you know, universities such as Oxford and Cambridge, they tend to produce very academic doctors with a passion for researching medicine, right? Okay, to, you know, pushing back those sort of that knowledge of science and so forth. If really what you want to do is become like a GP eventually, Oxford and Cambridge aren't really suitable for you because they're interested in producing academic doctors interested in research. English, number 7. English is probably the single most important factor for success regarding international students. And of all the different aspects of English, listening, speaking, reading, writing is key for your studies, right? Because that is how you will be assessed through your assignments, homework, exams, and so forth. Writing is key. But also, in my opinion, writing is probably the most difficult part of English, unfortunately. Listening and reading is inputting information. Therefore, it's very easy to do that on your own. In fact, you really should do that on your own if you're serious about improving your English. Writing and speaking, you are outputting information. You can't do that on your own. You must have an English teacher or attend English lessons for that. The best way to improve on your own is reading by a long, long way. Read anything. It could be textbooks, storybooks, newspapers, magazines, but you should buy a notebook. And any words you do not understand, write them down in this notebook and look them up in a dictionary. Okay, reading will help to improve your vocabulary, your spelling, your grammar, plus your syntax. Syntax is how you build a sentence. If all you do is attend English lessons at school and don't do anything else outside of those lessons, your English will never improve. That's a guarantee. You have to study outside of lessons for your English to improve. This is one thing that I find a little bit frustrating. So some international students will spend all of their time focusing on IELTS training to get a good IELTS score. One thing you need to remember, though, is a good IELTS score is not necessarily the same thing as having good English, okay? And so, look, if you attend IELTS training lessons, then usually those lessons will focus on not teaching you English. They will focus on something called examination techniques, okay? They will teach you the little tips and tricks you need to know to get a higher IELTS score. And honestly, that training is actually quite important because it's very difficult to get a high IELTS score without training in IELTS examination techniques. However, if all you do is focus on examination techniques to get a pretty good score, when you go to the UK to study, you're going to suffer because your real English is actually not that good. You have focused entirely on IELTS examination training and you have not bothered to study real English. And so it's really, really important that you don't just focus on IELTS training, but you've got to do both. You've got to learn real English plus get some IELTS training as well. I've met students who have got IELTS 6 or 6.5, official IELTS, and it's their photo on the IELTS. I've checked it, so they didn't cheat, it was them. But when I actually meet them and talk to them, their English is actually quite poor, right? And the reason why I know it's because all they did was focus on IELTS training. And so those kind of students will usually struggle in the UK. Number 8, the interview. Okay, so interview is a good thing. A lot of students get very, very nervous if they're invited along for an interview. It's a great thing. And the reason why it's a great thing is because it levels the playing field. And by that, I mean, they would not invite you along for an interview unless they thought you were a suitable student, right? So at that stage, nothing else matters apart from how you come across an interview, right? Because they've read your personal statement, they've seen your academic background, your reports, they've seen your predicted grades and your academic references, and they think, yeah, this student could actually be good. And so at the interview, the only thing that really matters at that stage is how you perform at interview, right? Nothing else before then matters. And so this is a good thing. Cambridge University tend to interview slightly more of their applicants compared to Oxford, around 70% versus 75%, sorry, versus around 50%. It does change year on year, but as a general rule, that is correct. And at interview, your personal statement will be the basis of many, many questions. Often, we have had this where students will come back from an interview at Oxford or Cambridge and they will say to their personal tutor, oh, that was horrible. That was horrible. They were so rude. They were so horrible to me. There's no way I will get an offer from them. No way, because they were just horrible. Usually that's a pretty good sign. If they like you and they like your application, get ready for a difficult time, right? They are going to give you a difficult interview because they want to push you. They want to test you. And actually, in a lot of those cases where the students have come back to MPW saying, oh, it was awful, awful, just a disaster. Most of them, not a lot of them, but most of them have ended up getting offers. Okay, so for the interview, make sure you practice, practice, practice. It will make you less nervous. You've only got one chance to make a good impression. You've got to go in confident, right? They don't like nervous students or shy students. You can't be like that. Preparation, very important. Remember to read widely around your chosen subject area. Talk to other teachers and academics and students. Be prepared to be discursive at interview. Discursive, there's a good word. It means randomly changing subject without notice. Always try to establish during interview why you will be an outstanding student. What are you going to contribute to university life? What makes you stand out? One of the things I've noticed about students from Asia and students from Korea for sure is that you guys can be a little bit modest. Okay, you're not very into boasting and bragging and saying how great you are. Well, during interview, that's the time to boast, to be honest with you, but make sure you can back up what you boast. I recommend that students prepare answers to all of these general questions, right? Because these are very, very general questions, often asked at every interview, regardless of the subject area. Things like, why did you choose this subject? Why did you choose this university? Okay, don't say, oh, because it's good ranking. That's possibly the worst answer you can give. Why did you choose your particular A-levels? What did you read on the train down here, if you caught a train down to that university? What are your weaknesses? There's a bit of a trick question for you. What work experience have you done? What did it teach you? What do you see yourself doing after university? What achievement are you most proud of? Why should we offer you a place? You should prepare answers to all of these. At the top unis, sometimes students get thrown some very weird, tricky, difficult questions where there's not necessarily a right answer. They just want to see how your brain works. And so these are all questions asked to our students. Do you think you're clever? That was asked to one of our law students. It was actually the first question that they were asked to interview. Boom, do you think you're clever? How much money is there in the world? An economics question. What are the fundamental differences between engineering and physics? That was asked to one of our engineering students. Should someone sell their kidney? Asked to a medic student, right? About 1 in 4 deaths in the UK is due to some form of cancer. Yet in the Philippines, the figure is 1 in 10. What are the reasons? I know the answer to that. You would only know the answer to that through reading, okay? Just in case you're interested, the reason why, okay, so UK is a developed country, first world developed country. Philippines is a developing country. And so actually the mortality rate in the Philippines is much higher at a much younger age compared to the UK. It's just that the reasons for death are not cancer. It's usually for other reasons, okay? Read, that's how you find out answers to these things. Final tip, hard wording, sacrifice, right? Okay, so how can you tell if you're suitable for a top uni, like Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, Imperial, all of these things, right? Number one, you are on track for top A-level grades. You're predicted 3 A stars, and you have got top grades in every subject in every year that you have done so far. That is the typical profile of student that gets into the top unis, that gets into programs like medicine, vet science, dentistry, okay? You're getting top grades every year, every subject, and you're predicted 3 A stars. That's the first thing. You work obsessively. You want to work. You don't work just because you're told to work by your parents or teacher. You do it because you want to do it. You love a good academic debate. Like I say, you're very confident in articulating your thoughts and arguing points both for and against. You handle pressure well, okay? Because studying courses like medicine, going to top unis, is going to be a lot of pressure. If you can't handle pressure, you are not suitable. You don't mind independent study because that will absolutely be expected of you. And for something like Oxford and Cambridge, you're after a small, close-knit community because remember, you're really mixing with other students from the college, not the uni. If you're the type of student who expects your parents, your agent, your school, your teacher to do everything for you, reconsider top unis, reconsider medicine, dentistry, vet science. You're not suitable, okay? At least 2 years of outstanding preparation is required. Most students in the UK will start from age 15, okay? Reading takes time. It can be boring. It can be hard work, okay? You've got to start early. Work experience is hard to get. You've got to start early. You must have initiative. You must be committed. You've got a chance though, okay? So here's a stat. So students from private schools will actually get around 45% of the places at Oxford and Cambridge. Yet in the UK, only 9% of students are educated in private schools. So in other words, 9% of students will get 45% of the places in Oxford and Cambridge. Look, I'm not saying if this is right or wrong, but the fact is private schools offer you the best chance simply because they have the most money. Therefore, they have the best teachers and best facilities, so forth, right? Okay, I'm going to quickly finish this off by introducing the school that I work for. So I work for a group of schools in the UK called Mpw, okay? And we have 3 campuses in the UK. So we've got a campus in London, we have a campus in Cambridge, and we have a campus in Birmingham. Birmingham is the #2 city in the UK. Of course, London is #1. Cambridge is like a beautiful, old, traditional Harry Potter sort of student city. Just some information about Mpw. We are a domestic school. So we are not an international school. We are a domestic school that also accepts international students. We're around 70% UK, 30% international. We have very few students from mainland China. This is very, very unusual. Our focus is education. It is not money. Education. That's why we have so few students from mainland China. You've got to have pretty good English to come and study at Mpw because we're mostly UK. A lot of students from China can't meet the IELTS requirements. We're not in it just for the money. And so we have academic standards. And so it's a really good balanced nationality mix at Mpw. Like I mentioned at the beginning, our teaching model is based on the same teaching model at Cambridge University, and that is small classes, discussion-based teaching. You have to talk in our lessons, you have to. And so for GCSEs and A-levels, it's a maximum of 9 students per class, maximum of 14 for foundation. So we can help students with any type of subject they're interested in. Business, economics, engineering, law, arts, computing, it doesn't matter. Any subject we can help with. However, we have become very famous in the UK for preparation onto the competitive science programs, such as medicine, dentistry, and vet science. Over the past 3 years, just the past 3 years alone, we have successfully sent 149 students to medicine, dentistry, and vet science. In 2021 alone, we sent 47. Okay, to study medicine, dentistry, and vet science. I don't know of any other school that sends in such large volume to medicine, dentistry, and vet science. Maybe there is, but I'm not aware of that school. Every single year, around 70% of our students will go to either Russell Group or University of London, which is, they're the kind of universities a lot of international students are aiming for. And every year, around a quarter of our students will go to Times Top 10. And we say Times Top 10 because the Times ranking is a lot more academic. Guardian ranking focuses a lot more on things like student satisfaction and maybe jobs. But the jobs are not really reliable, I don't think, because it could be working like in a coffee shop. Do you know what I mean? Times is much more academic. This is London. This is actually our school in London, our campus. We are located in central London, Zone 1, a very nice part of London called South Kensington. It is where all the museums are and art galleries. If you've been to London as a tourist, you've been to where MPW is. London is our biggest campus by some way. We have around 600 students in London. Also, we have currently bought a new building. And so we are now renovating this building. And this building will be the new London accommodation, which will be open from this September onwards, September 22. And so these are some artists' impressions of the new accommodation building in London. It is located on the same road as the Natural History Museum. If you actually go into the building, you look down on the Natural History Museum. It is very close to where all of the art galleries and museums are, very close to Imperial College. Great location, and it is only 2 minutes walk to the school, right? So really, really nice location. Artist impressions, there's going to be a new art studio. Anyone interested in studying art and design, we have the University of the Arts London Art Foundation available in our London campus, and you will be studying art in this new studio, plus a couple of other art studios we have. Common room. We've got an outdoors roof terrace. There's going to be like a coffee shop there. This is the student accommodation. Okay, very, very nice student accommodation. And so lovely. Can't wait for that to open. This is our Cambridge school. We're located close to the city centre. It will take about 15 minutes to walk to the city centre, maybe less, I think, about 10 minutes to walk to the city centre from where we are. Around 220 students there. Just an example of accommodation. We've got accommodation, of course, in Cambridge. This is one of the student houses that we have. We have quite a lot of student houses, actually. Living room and just an example bedroom, for example. Birmingham. This is actually our Birmingham school right here. It's changed a bit because there's no road outside the school anymore. They have made it so that no cars can go down this road, and there's all coffee shops and little shops opposite. So that's really, really cool because it makes it like a student village. You can't walk to the city centre where we are, but we are located in a nice part of Birmingham called Edgbaston. And you certainly can walk to the big shopping districts, such as where the Bullring is and things like this. Around 250 students in our Birmingham campus. Accommodation, we've got quite a lot, actually. The accommodation is super convenient in Birmingham. Under 18s will live next door, like literally next door. Over 18s will live 10 minutes walk away. Example bedroom. Another example bedroom, clearly from a girl student, okay, judging by the toys and things like this on the bed. An example of just a common room, for example, within the student accommodation halls. So that's me. I hope you found some of these tips useful. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you to People Loving. Thank you to Suno for your assistance. I will stop sharing now, Suno. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's great actually. Yes, as I said before, so yeah, the tip is 10 tips for some universities, especially very interesting and very informative. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I couldn't do it in Korean. It would be better if I did it in Korean, right? But sorry about that. But thank you, Suno.
그 MPW는 이런 학교라고 보시면 될 것 같아요. 굉장히 좀 이렇게 좀 뭐랄까 그 소규모 학교거든요. 클래스에 한 맥시멈이 9명인데 보통 뭐 5명이 되는 경우도 있고 7명이 되는 거고 제 학생들은 뭐 물리, 사이언스 배울 때 4명, 5명 왜 이렇게도 있었거든요. 그리고 여기는 굉장히 높은 성적이 있는 학생들도 오긴 하지만 그렇지 않은 학생들도 오거든요. 그래서 그 학생들이 굉장히 좀 높은 성적으로 졸업을 하는 것으로 유명한 그런 학교예요. 그래서 학생들 만족도는 가장 사실 높은 학교였던 것 같아요. 그래서 학교 빌딩이라든지 왜 이런 것들이 굉장히 좀 멋지다, 뭐 이런 것들은 아니긴 하지만 학교 가서 선생님들이 만족도라든지 학교의 티칭이라든지 왜 이런 거에 대한 만족들은 컴플레인은 거의 사실 없었던 그런 학교였거든요. 그래서 현재도 저희 학생들이 다니고 있고요. 왜 이런 학교입니다. 그래요. 그래요. 그러면 좀 well, I have some questions. Well,
Sure.
it's a very good news you have in new accommodation in London. How many places are available in London?
So new accommodation, I believe there's going to be 70, maybe about 75 rooms, something like that, about 75 rooms. Yeah, something like this. And so, yeah, really looking forward to that opening. Great location. It's going to be very nice.
How about you don't provide online lesson during this pandemic?
Oh, yeah, so we do. So at the moment, what we are offering is something called blended learning. So it's both face-to-face and online at the same time. I do not know what will happen in September 22. It all depends on the situation regarding COVID, right? And so if COVID is still an issue, we will continue to offer blended learning. If it is less of an issue, it might just be face-to-face. But yeah, we will watch the situation closely and we will try and make it as easy as possible for students to access their lessons. But I guess we won't know about September until maybe July, something like that, until the summertime, I guess.
Okay, so how about which center is the most popular for international students?
Sorry?
Which center is the most popular for international students? You said if students want medicine, do you recommend the Birmingham Center? Depends on.
Okay, so Birmingham is very popular for, but then I would say when it comes to things like medicine and vet science, it's pretty even actually across all three. But the campus with the most number of internationals is Cambridge. And so yeah, so Birmingham and London, they are both around 70% UK, 30% international. Cambridge, I would say, is probably closer to 50-50, actually, about 50% UK, 50% international. And so in terms of popularity with internationals, Cambridge, and the only reason why is because it's Cambridge. It's a famous city. So a lot of international students want to study in Cambridge. Yeah, there's no other reason really apart from that. Yeah.
So so you actually so you accept student the report is not so great, so you still accept the student as long as they pass your entrance exam.
To pass the entrance exam for us.
You are not selective college.
We're quite selective. We're not super selective, right? We're not super selective. We're not like, Eton and Harrow or whatever. We're quite selective. So if you're interested in, say, A-levels, you must give us your past 3 years school reports. You have to do a maths exam. And so you would do that maths exam in People Loving Office. You've got to do, if you're under 18 for A-levels, you've got to do an English test. Again, you would do that in the People Loving Office. And then also you will have a Zoom interview. And so it's really based on those 4 things: school reports, maths exam, English test, interview, whether or not you'll be made an offer. And so we're not super selective. We're quite selective, is what I would say.
So why your school is the best suitable for Oxbridge entry and medicine entry?
Okay, really just because of our experience, I guess, and our proven track record in helping students. And so, we send to Oxford and Cambridge every year. We send to medicine, dentistry, vet science every year. I don't have the books with me, but MPW, the teachers at MPW, actually write guidebooks, and these books are proper books. Yeah, you've got the books. I know you've got the books, Suno, right? And these books are available for purchase from Amazon, but also they sell a lot every single year, because many UK schools buy these guidebooks from us, MPW, to put into their school library and to give to their students. And some of these guidebooks are things like getting into Oxford and Cambridge, getting into medicine, getting into dentistry. And so we've got a lot of knowledge and experience that we can basically give to students who are interested in Oxford, Cambridge, medicine. And oh yeah, exactly. These types of books. Thank you, Sino. Yeah, exactly. And so our teachers know, they just know, look, you know, there are never any guarantees about getting students into Oxford and Cambridge and medicine, of course, but what we can guarantee is that we will give you good preparation and that we have lots and lots of knowledge and experience when it comes to helping students applying to these universities. So I've just got a quick question from Claire, and she's asking how many students in the London campus? London has around 600. It is the biggest campus by some way. Actually, in MPW, yeah, about 600 students.
Yeah. So how about student who is a level IELTS is less than 6.5 in all sub skills, they do take IELTS lesson.
Yeah, so with right, yeah, we're quite strict in some ways. So if a student is applying for A levels, and if they enter with less than 6.5 overall, plus less than 6.5 in writing, the schools will make the students do additional termly IELTS training until they reach 6.5 overall, plus 6.5 in writing. And the reasons for this is because, well, number one, if you can get 6.5 overall and 6.5 in writing, it means you're much more likely to get good grades on your A-level subjects. But number two, if you can get 6.5 overall plus 6.5 in writing, guess what? That's what a lot of the top universities will ask for, is 6.5. I mean, medicine, they're going to ask for higher, maybe 7 in all sections, maybe even 7.5, right? And so by making students get to that level, 6.5 overall and 6.5 in writing, it just really, really helps in terms of A levels and applying to university and so forth. Yeah.
Well, I know that how to teach in a student classes. Can you express why your teaching is so special?
Okay, sure. Okay, so our teaching is very much based on Cambridge University. So MPW, it's a bit of a weird name, right? Manda, Portman, Woodward. These are the names of the 3 founders of MPW, and they founded MPW back in 1970 or something like this. They all graduated from Cambridge University, and they noticed when they left Cambridge Uni that all schools in the UK back then were very traditional in their teaching, in that large classes, maybe 30 students in a class, a teacher would stand at the front of class talking, students will sit there very quietly, just taking notes, that was it. They wanted to start a school where the teaching style was more in line with Cambridge Uni, so they started MPW. So for example, on A levels, there is a maximum of 9 students per class. And the teaching is discussion-based teaching. It's another reason why you kind of need good English, right? You must ask questions at MPW. You must be afraid, do not be afraid, you must answer questions. Do not be afraid to say to our teachers, hey teacher, are you sure you're right? Because I think you might be wrong. And these are the reasons I think you might be wrong. Our teachers will love that. It shows that you're willing and able to start an academic debate. It shows that you're confident in articulating your thoughts, okay? It shows that you're capable of analyzing information. They will love it. Don't do that to a teacher in Korea. They will punch you in the face, right, if they do that. But at MPW, you must talk and take part in discussions during lessons. Okay?
Okay, so this is the last thing. Is personally, I'm very interested. How about in the UK? So I heard, from other schools, if one student got actually offer from Cambridge, and offer from Bristol for engineering. But so one student one student in British student got offer from Cambridge University, and then. And at the same time, he got an offer from Bristol University. for aerospace engineering. So student rejected the offer from Cambridge, and then he joined Bristol. Is it happening very often in the UK?
I wouldn't. Doesn't happen often, but also I like that. I like that because the student clearly actually did their research and they looked at the strengths and weaknesses. They looked at what life would be like at the universities, the teaching style and things like this, and they made a decision based on what they think would be best for them, what the university is famous for, and so on, the teaching style. And so he decided that Bristol would be more appropriate for him. And Bristol is very, very good for engineering, right? And so, it's not often that students will turn down an offer from Oxford and Cambridge. It's not often at all. But also, I quite like the fact that the student has made a decision based on a number of things, not just ranking, because Cambridge is number one. And so, but it's not often that happens at all, to be honest with you. But no, it's good that it's sometimes.
Full scholarship.
It may have been that as well. It may be something to do with a big scholarship offered by Bristol, but Bristol is good for engineering. That's the thing. It's one of the subjects it's famous for. But then Cambridge is number one, right? And so very unusual. It does happen, but it's rare that it happens.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy. So thank you very much for your time. It's really such a great presentation.
Thank you, Suno. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, People Loving. And thank you to students.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.